The land of pharaohs and various discoveries. Egypt is one of the longest inhabited places worldwide. Hence, there are many archaeological discoveries to be uncovered. A recent discovery is of a mystery box that is surprisingly dated back to 3,500 years old. It's said the box is 3,500 years old, and with that, what secret does it hold? So in this video, let's dive deep and discover the hidden secret of the 3,500-year-old box. But before we get into the details, do subscribe and let us know why the Egyptians made mummies. Comment your answers down below. Here we begin. Ancient Egypt was the oldest civilization ever and was in northeastern Africa, which flourished during the 4th millennium BCE. Its many achievements, preserved in art and monuments, hold a fascination that grows as archaeological discoveries reveal its secrets. Life in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt can be compared to an oasis in the desert of northeastern Africa, reliant on the Nile River's annual inundation to sustain its agricultural population. The fertile floodplain of the Nile Valley, the place where the river flows between bands of limestone hills, and the Nile Delta, which flows into several branches north of present-day Cairo, provided the country's wealth. A variable band of low desert between the floodplain and the hills supported a certain amount of game. Egypt's only mode of transportation was the Nile. Agriculture was centered on cereal crops, primarily emmer wheat and barley. Because of the fertility of the land and the general predictability of inundation, a single annual crop could produce a very high yield. This productivity enabled large surpluses to be stored against crop failures and formed the main foundation of Egyptian wealth, which was the most significant state in the ancient Middle East until the large empires of the 1st millennium BCE. Most Egyptians were most likely descended from prehistoric settlers who moved to the Nile Valley with population growth fueled by natural fertility. In addition, there were immigrants from Nubia, Libya, and especially the Middle East at various times. The majority of people lived in the Nile Valley and Delta villages and towns. Dwellings were typically constructed of mud brick and have long since vanished beneath the rising water table and beneath the modern town sites, erasing evidence of settlement patterns. Egypt was not as urbanized as Mesopotamia until the 1st millennium BCE. Instead, a few cities, most notably Memphis and Thebes, attracted a large population, particularly the elite, while the rest of the people were distributed fairly evenly across the land. Almost everyone was involved in agriculture, and it was probably tied to the land. In theory, all land belonged to the king, but in practice, those who lived on it could not be easily removed, and some types of land could be bought and sold. Most tracts required payment of significant dues to the state, which had a strong interest in keeping the land for agricultural use. Abandoned land was returned to the state and reassigned for cultivation. Slavery was never widespread, only affecting captives and foreigners, as well as people forced to sell themselves into servitude due to poverty or debt. Slaves sometimes married members of their owners' families, so those belonging to households were eventually assimilated into free society. Large numbers of captive slaves were acquired by major state institutions or incorporated into the army in the New Kingdom. Punishment of foreign slaves or native fugitives from their obligations included forced labor, exile, or compulsion to join dangerous mining expeditions. Even non-punitive work such as quarrying in the desert was dangerous. The king and ideology. Egyptian society was organized in a descending hierarchy of gods, kings, blessed dead, and humans. Only the king was single among these groups, thus he was more prominent than the others. The king was endowed with divine essence, but not in any straightforward or unqualified way. His divinity came from his office, as well as reaffirmed through rituals, but it was far inferior to major gods. He was a god rather than a man because of his potential, which was immeasurably greater than that of any human being. He manifested the gods on earth for humanity, a concept elaborated in a complex web of metaphor and doctrine. Less directly, he represented humanity to the gods. According to the Bible, Egyptian kings are commonly referred to as pharaohs. However, the term pharaoh is derived from the Egyptian pur-a, great estate, and dates back to the establishment of the royal palace as an institution. From around 1400 BCE, this term for the palace was increasingly used to refer to the living king. Previously, it was uncommon. Thutmose II. There were many pharaohs in Egypt. One was Thutmose II, the 4th pharaoh of Egypt's 18th dynasty. His reign was generally dated between 1493 and 1479 BC. Thutmose II was the heir or the son of Thutmose I and Mutnofret, a minor wife. As a result, he was Thutmose I's lesser son, and he chose to marry Hatshepsut, his fully royal half-sister, and the reason was just to secure his kingship. While he successfully suppressed rebellions in Nubia as well as the Levant and later defeated a band of nomadic Bedouins, these campaigns were led by the king's generals rather than Thutmose II himself. This is frequently interpreted as proof that Thutmose II was still a minor at the time of his ascension. Before his death, Thutmose II fathered Neferuri with his wife, Hatshepsut, as well as Thutmose III, a male heir by a lesser wife named Iset. Some archaeologists also believe that Hatshepsut was the real owner or power behind the throne during Thutmose II's reign, owing to the similar domestic and foreign policies pursued later under her reign and her claim that she was her father's intended heir. She appears in several raised relief scenes from the Karnak Gateway dating to Thutmose II's reign, both with and without her husband. Several years after the reign of her husband's young successor, Thutmose III, she got herself crowned pharaoh. This is confirmed by the fact that the queen's agents somehow replaced the big boy king's name in some of the places with her own cartouches on the gateway. A recent archaeological discovery in Egypt. Archaeologists discovered a 3,500-year-old stone chest in the rubble above the Egyptian site of Deir el-Bahari. This extraordinary discovery, made near the renowned mortuary temple of Hatshepsut, suggests that an untouched royal tomb could be nearby. Inside the chest were several packages wrapped in linen canvas. One held the skeleton of a sacrificial goose, while the other held its egg. The third bundle contained a wooden box containing what was most likely an ibis's egg. The chest itself is about 40 centimeters long, with a slightly smaller height, said Professor Andrzej Nowicki of Warsaw University's Institute of Archaeology. It was perfectly camouflaged and appeared to be a regular stone block. It wasn't until I got closer that I realized it was a chest. The archaeologists discovered a folded bundle next to it. In the case of the bundle, 4 layers of linen canvas covered a wooden box containing a faience box shaped like a chapel. It contained one of Pharaoh Thutmose II's names. Professor Nowicki, who leads the excavation team, stated, "The royal deposit proves that either a temple or the king's tomb was established in the king's name. We know it's a tomb because we're in the middle of a royal cemetery. The discovery of this deposit indicates that we are on our way to discovering the tomb." Aside from the pharaoh's name, the symbolism of the other objects they discovered indicates that the deposit was made in his name. So what do you think about this surprising discovery of the pharaoh's mummy? Let us know in the comment section below. And yes, the answer to the question we've asked is Egyptians make mummies to preserve the bodies of the dead so they could live in the afterlife. This is because they believed if a dead body rotted, the person's soul would suffer in the world of the dead. So stay tuned and subscribe to our channel for more such mysterious discoveries of ancient Egypt. See you in the next video.